Hello there, Dr. Scott Waghorn here, coming to you from Dentalcare West, which is a dental practice in Glen Eden, Auckland, New Zealand. New Zealand, don't know if you've been here, 4 million people, most beautiful country in the whole world, and Auckland is the largest city in New Zealand, so 1 million people. And I've been asked to have a little chat and to share a few bits and pieces about me. And so the first question was, when I was growing up, did I always want to be a dentist, or what did I want to be? And I realised at the age of 7 years old, I was a little bit weird. I realised at the age of 7 years old that I really wanted to be a dentist, and I remember seeing a little ad that was for being a dentist as a career, and I remember looking at that thinking, that looks amazing. One day maybe I'll be able to pull out a tooth or do a filling. It just fascinated me. Plus I was quite weird in that I quite like people to play with my teeth and give me cleanings and fillings. I never had any fillings, but give me cleanings and pick around, and I thought, oh, if that's what I get to do, I want to do more of that. So in dental school, it seemed that there were 60 people in my year, and of the 60, only 2 of them actually wanted to be a dentist as first choice, because in New Zealand how it works is you do a 1-year course called Health Sciences that then enables you to gain access into physio, pharmacy, dentistry or medicine. And dentistry, the marks to get in are slightly lower than medicine, and so the majority of my class all wanted to be doctors. Me and one other guy really wanted to be a dentist, so it's a little interesting, a little fun fact. I think that's changed in later years because of a variety of different admission things that happen, but certainly always knew I wanted to be a dentist. It asks here, what are the requirements to get into dental school? So in New Zealand, you just have to get into university, so you got to have university entrance, and then you just do a 1-year competitive course. So in the States, I know you've got to do an undergraduate and then go for selection into the postgraduate. In New Zealand, the dental school, the School of Dentistry is regarded as an undergraduate degree, so you do the Health Sciences course first, then you go ahead and do 4 more years of dental school. So it's 5 years total. That includes the first year competitive year, then you get your grades, then you get into either dentistry or medicine. In my case, dentistry, and 4 more years, and then you are a fully qualified dentist. In New Zealand, the dental school takes 5 years. I've already answered that. The cost is around $15,000 per year. That's in tuition fees. Add on that whatever you like in terms of living expenses. And the cool thing about New Zealand is we get to, with all of our fees and living expenses, we get to ask the government for a loan to assist with that, and it's an interest-free loan. So in terms of the cost to get a dental degree in New Zealand, it's pretty affordable compared to, I know, the States and many other countries. It's very expensive, so we're very lucky here. Can the dental school license transfer to the US? Yes, it certainly can. It's a little bit tricky in that you have to do some exams, and there can sometimes be a little bit of extra certification depending upon what state you go into, but it's certainly possible. And what could a high school student do now to help prepare them for dental school? Well, I think what would assist any high school student, no matter what sort of the health sciences or health field you got into, I think just a really solid background in chemistry, physics, biology and maths, and just do all those basic core subjects and try and get really good at them. Because the one thing I found about dental school, and this goes for any university or course like dentistry, is you can't get behind when you go to university, because if you miss one lecture, then you've missed not only the lecture but obviously all the notes that come with it, and then the next day comes and you've got another lecture with more notes, and then all of a sudden very quickly, if you miss a couple of days, you've got now that day to cover plus the 2 more, and it starts to snowball out of control. So my advice for someone going as a high school student, but also just even if you're early on in your university, would be to say do not get behind, because it just gets too tricky to catch up. So what's important for high school students is to just do some of the basic core subjects of health, so that when you are doing your university work, you're not too far behind already. You've already got a bit of a basis to work from. By the way, that tip comes directly from my dad, who is a professor himself, and he told me that before my first day of university. He said, "Scott, I have only one thing I'm going to tell you, and that is do not get behind." And I didn't, and it helped. Because if you just do a little bit every day, that goes for life in general, by the way, if you just do a little bit every day, it adds up. Any books, websites, podcasts that you would suggest for students? There are quite a few things that I would suggest for dentists, but it depends on your particular interest. For mine, my interest was always to do and to learn about cosmetic dentistry and implant dentistry, and then to learn about the business of dentistry. So we're lucky these days with YouTube and with a range of things, we can just type in what we want to know and kaboom, there we are. But in terms of specific for dentistry, there's a couple of really good sources of information. One is called Dentaltown, that's dentaltown.com. Prior to having kids, I used to spend all of my time after work researching on Dentaltown and listening to other stories of other dentists and hearing what went right and what went wrong, and from a dentist point of view and learning to be a good dentist, what I've found is I love to find someone to mentor me who is really open and willing to share all their mistakes, because it seemed to me going to lectures and going to seminars, everyone always showed beautiful pictures of their beautiful work, and I was struggling to achieve those same results. But it wasn't until I found some people that showed me all of the things that can go wrong and all their mistakes that all of a sudden it started to really click for me. So I encourage you to find well, on Dentaltown you get all of the different information. You get the good, the bad and the ugly, and I think that's really important because that is real life. In terms of books though, as a high school student, a very influential book for me, I remember I was 16 years old, and it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a very critical book for me. This is from just a developing of the mind point of view, because my dad, he was your classic poor dad. He was extremely knowledgeable, extremely successful in his particular career, but was trapped in his job, and also wasn't fairly, in my view, fairly remunerated for the number of hours and his skill level. And I thought to myself, like, okay, so that's a poor dad. So what is a rich dad? And I had no inkling of what a rich dad was. So the Poor Dad, Rich Dad book by Robert Kiyosaki was very good for me, just to learn and all of a sudden say, oh, okay, so there's different pathways to take. And dentistry is a profession where it's very much you have a specialized skill, so it enables you to earn, if you're good at it, earn a reasonably high hourly rate. But the negative is that you are capped at that, and you're unable to do more than your little two hands can do, which is why a lot of dentists get into owning practices and doing other things, which, by the way, can divert them from their true skill, and they end up doing worse off when they own a practice, just as a little side fact. So but yeah, that was a book that was very influential for me. What's been the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome in your journeys thus far? For me, I've had to overcome a number of hurdles, but the main one was just the recognition that in dentistry we get shown a lot of perfect cases, and we're shown perfection all the time. And so the biggest hurdle for me in my mind was, how do I learn a specialty? How do I learn how to put implants in? How do I learn how to pull out wisdom teeth, difficult ones? How do I learn to do sinus grafts and a range of oral surgery skills if I haven't done it before, when I'm trying to be perfect, and yet I'm not perfect because it's my first time doing it? So for me, a major hurdle was just getting my mind around the fact that it really is a journey to be any sort of professional. And that's now when patients say to me, oh wow, that was a great procedure, I didn't realise it would be so easy, I always say that's because it's dental practice. And see, in New Zealand we call our practice a dental practice, and I know in the States you call dental practice dental offices. But in New Zealand we call it a dental practice, and so I always say it's just dental practice. So the more that I practice and slowly develop my skills, the better I get, the more patients like me, and it's a beautiful thing. But striving for progress and not perfection, that is the key. It's enabled me to do every niche of dentistry there is, so I do every sort of dental procedure that there is, from full mouth implant rehabilitations over a couple of days, all the way through every sort of wisdom tooth removal that there is. I love just doing every little part, but the only way you can do that, because a lot of dentists are very scared to do anything that's a bit advanced, purely because they're worried about not being perfect. So I think actually in life it's good to strive for progress and slowly getting better rather than being perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect in life. How do you manage your time between work and family? For me, I have a young family. My kids are 4.5 and 2.5, and with my wife, I think how I manage to do it is I personally work 4 mornings a week, and then do some admin, and so I'm home every day at 3 p.m. So that works very well for me, because growing up, my father wasn't there a great deal. He was there later on, but usually we were almost ready to go to bed and stuff. So I noticed that he worked quite long hours, and which wasn't an issue. I think that's pretty normal. But I remember very early on thinking, I really want to become, set up a business. I wanted to become a good dentist, set up a business, and then have kids. So that's sort of been how I've done it, is I try to set myself up prior to having kids, just so that then I can enjoy my kids, because everyone always tells you enjoy your kids while they're young, because they grow up so fast. So I've really tried to listen to that advice, and if I can give a piece of advice, and everyone is different, and obviously some people have kids earlier, and that's fine, but if you can try and put in as much effort and work prior to having kids as possible, I think it's very helpful, because if your kids are anything like mine, they love it when I come home and play with them, and they don't want me sitting in my office typing away and doing other work. So I think that would be just a little thing that I found. But in terms of managing time between work and family, I think it's very difficult, I think, in anything to ever achieve a perfect balance. But for me, I like a little bit of change, so I'm constantly tweaking how I do things and tweaking my life, and I plan to continue to do so, because I'm sure I'm far from there. What are my long-term goals? Well, so currently I own quite a group of practices, and we also operate mobile practices around Auckland as well. And my plan is to, if we are able to slowly expand the operation and continue to grow the business. We've managed to create a system that is a combination of quite a few systems out there of how to operate a practice, and I think it's a very good system, and it's proven itself to be a good system, and so that will enable me to continue to grow the practice and practices. But I've always found the secret to anything is to try to work with the people. So for me, I love to work with the dentists and with some of the staff to have them understand more about their role, make them more skilled and more able to do things. So for me, my personal goal, my business goal is to continue to grow the practices. For me, my goal is to personally grow as a leader and grow as a mentor and grow as someone who is able to guide and lead my people, because I've got somewhat of an idea of how to do it, but I always want to try to get better. So that's my long-term goal, I guess, is just to get better and better, and to try and get more and more people jazzed up to be on my team and to be awesome at what they do. And last year it mentions that I'm a golfer. Who would make up my dream foursome? Well, a couple of people I'm big fans of. One is Elon Musk, so he would have to be on my team, certainly in my foursome. Another one, definitely Barack Obama. He's someone who I know is also quite a good golfer. And who would finish it off? Maybe a chef, so that we could have some yummy food. Maybe Gordon Ramsay. I quite like Gordon Ramsay. I've been watching him for a large number of years, since when he very first came on the scene. And I think he'd be someone fun to have there as well. And he makes beautiful food as well. I went to his restaurant in London, and it was the most expensive meal I've ever had, but also one of the most tasty meals. Often the most expensive meal doesn't always equal the most tasty, but his was delicious. Any final thoughts, wisdom or insight that I'd like to share with students? I think one of the things, and I say this to a lot of my people as well, is that there is no such thing as a lack of resources. Because I hear a lot of the time, oh, I can't do this, I don't have the money, I don't have a car, I don't have this, I don't have that. There's always a lot of reasons why you can't do something. So the saying goes, there's no such thing as a lack of resources, there's only a lack of resourcefulness. And I would just encourage you as a person, as a student, to never accept and never allow opportunities to go by because of perceived lack of resources. Like, things in life go to those who do not accept that, and who find problems and solve them, and find problems and solve them. And that's been my sort of way of doing things, is to try to find problems and solve them. And they say that about businesses, is that the secret to building a great business is to find a big problem and then solve that. And I think that goes against what is the usual trend out there, is that businesses are solutions looking for a problem. I'd rather find that problem first and then make my business all about solving it. So that resourcefulness, I think, one is important. And the other thing is to know that I get a lot of comments. People often say, wow, like, what you've done over time is amazing and it's great. And they sort of perceive there to have been an element of like, well, when you look at someone who's done something in life and it looks great, what you have to understand is to break that down, because often there's the perception that it's amazing, whereas actually all it is, if you break it down, is just a series of incremental and quite boring, often just little steps. And I just want to let everyone know that you can achieve absolutely anything that you want to achieve if you just put your mind to it and just slowly walk about achieving it. Like, there goes that saying, how do you eat an elephant? You eat an elephant with only one bite at a time, which is totally true. So you just, I don't know if it's totally true about eating an elephant, but if you just slowly keep on going, you will get there. And I found that in life, the people that usually get further ahead are the ones who turn up and do the actions needed, even when they don't want to. So rather than only doing things when they feel like it, they do the things needed even when they don't feel like it. And what happens is, I found in life, if you continue to do those actions, it gives you confidence, it gives you a good feeling, and so you continue to do it. And doing those actions, as I say, it builds confidence, it builds momentum. People around you see that, and people that see that like that, and which links to my final point, which is, we're very lucky in the world today, we're very connected, and I encourage people to find someone who is what you want to be one day, and then meet with them and then copy everything that they do. So there is no particular magic trick out there. No matter how impressive someone is, all they've done is a series of actions over time, and in some cases there's been an element of luck and timing and the right person at the right time. There's elements of that to any story, but I think you should go and find who is the best at what they do and then go and copy them. And that's precisely what I did. is when I graduated, I went and found a couple of people who were the very, very best at what they did here in Auckland, and I just spent time with them and I learned their mindset, and I basically just copied them, because when you're a student and when you're younger, how do you learn what to do? You have to copy people. And then in copying people and copying their actions, we then find ourselves, we then find what clicks and what doesn't. And just as important as copying people and learning what to do in life, it's also about copying people and learning what not to do. So sometimes we get ourselves into situations and we think it's a negative, but often negative situations for me are some of the most powerful, because I learned what not to do. And that I found is very important, because for me, I don't regard any failures, or I don't regard mistakes as being that. I always regard everything negative or a mistake or a failure, I regard it always as a learning experience, because the reason I am where I am today is because I've managed to, every time I fail or make a mistake, I own up to it, I accept it, and then I take that learning experience. And it's the best way of dealing with it, because if you look at it, and you feel the pain, oh, that was such a big issue or mistake that I made, and oh, it's going to cost me some money now, and it's horrible. If you look at it like, hang on, I've just learned a big lesson here, it's such a better way of thinking of it, and it makes you feel better. So that's all, my friends. Look, if there's any way I can ever be of assistance, or you'd like to discuss something, please feel free to get in touch. My email is scott@smilecare.co.nz, or you can DM me via Instagram @DrScottWaghorn. Be happy to assist. All I can ever do is share my story, share my experience, strength and hope. And thank you for listening. Hope you got through this 21 minutes. Catch you.